Parent Entrepreneur Power, conversation number 193.
Parent Entrepreneur Power.
Wait, what? It's Power!
This is the podcast for parents juggling the tough choices required for success in business while putting family first. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine Johnson, and I share the ups and downs and dirty truths of profits and potty training while chatting with successful parent entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Are you powered up? Hey there, Power Parents. Guess who? Mary Catherine Johnson here, and welcome to the Parent Entrepreneur Power podcast. And today I have Ashley Meyer. She is the founder of Mommies Hiring Mommies. That's how I met her. And she's also the partner at one of the partners at Meyer Law Offices. Hey there, Ashley. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mary. Nice to chat.
Oh, yes. I can't wait to chat with you because I got to tell you, Power Parents, I met Ashley at her event, and it was a last minute thing. I didn't expect to go to an event that month. I didn't have any tickets to go anywhere. But when I opened up my Facebook one day, I found that 2 days later, two people that I follow and I have interviewed on this show were going to be in my area. And I was like, what? What the heck's going on here? And I didn't know they were visiting. And it was Stacy Tuschel and Dana Malstaff. And I just was like, okay, where are they going? What are they doing? And exactly what happened was they were going to this event and they were speakers at this event for Mommies Hiring Mommies. And I went, okay, I got to go. But tickets were not available. So I messaged the page, the Facebook page, and said, hey, I'm here. I do this. I do that. I would love to go. I would love to meet people. Can I come, please? Can I give you my money, please? And wonderful Ashley responded and said, you bet. And the rest is history. And now we get to chat here. So after that wonderful introduction, can we start with your once upon a time story, Ashley? I know a little bit about it, but I want the Power Parents to know about it. And so how did you become a parent and an entrepreneur at the same time?
That's a good question. How did that happen? So my story, I was actually an entrepreneur first, parent second. So when I was in law school, I have always had a creative spirit, but I was raised by two attorneys. I love the law. I lived for it. I took 2 years off after college to be certain that I actually did want to go to law school, not just go because it's all I had known. Mm-hmm. So I ended up in law school. My husband we weren't married, but he graduated law school. A year later, I started, and then we got married my first week of law school. So that said, I went into this very heavy literal world where I was just dealing with very literal work all the time, very analytical stuff, very serious, and I loved it. But there's always been a part of me that was half literal and analytical and half creative spirit. And so when I was in law school, I realized that something significant was missing. And without really realizing what I was doing, I started a blog. And my blog was Design, Build, Love, and it was a DIY design blog. That was my first entrepreneurial space. And I ended up becoming a national blogger, and I traveled all over the country, going to events and working with large brands like 3M. And I had a blast, and I loved it. And I was designing and crafting and building, and my husband and I built furniture. I mean, it was just fun. We had a blast. But that said, fast forward about a year later, and I was working for a law firm. It was not the right fit for me. That firm was not my type of environment. And that relationship ended, and I realized that it wasn't serving me. And when I realized it wasn't serving me, I realized I needed something that truly did serve me. And I launched my efficiency consulting business. And so that was my true first business where I was out serving other people and doing things for other people. As a blog, I was paid and all those things, but it was more just my own thing. And it was a business, but I never really treated it like that. I really still treated it like a hobby. So when I started my business, it was Ashley Meyer Consulting. I helped individuals and businesses reframe what they were doing so they could basically gain more time, more money, and less stress. And so that was my focus for several years until I graduated law school, took the bar exam, passed the bar exam. I still owned and ran that business. And then I eventually said, you know what, I'm ready to go full-time into law. And this has been my journey. So then I went full-time into law, sold my business in January of that year. And then in May of that year, birthed my first child. And yes, oh yes, oh yes. And so it was such a journey. So then I ended up, if I had to say an entrepreneurial and motherhood journey were aligned, it was my law practice with my first son. And then my husband quit his corporate law position to join me as partners in a joint firm. And that was on a Monday. On a Wednesday, we found out we were pregnant with our second son. So our two sons are only 14 and a half months apart. And let me tell you, I'm much less risk averse than my husband. My husband's much more risk averse. And so it was certainly quite a journey. But, and then in motherhood, after, I live in a small community. Our law practice was planted here specifically so we could serve this community. And then we obviously have clients outside of the area as well. But really in serving this community, I realized there was a greater need for moms and moms who own businesses to connect. And so there was this whole journey of, I was a business owner and an entrepreneur, and I loved it and I lived it and I breathed it and it was everything to me. And then I became a mom, and suddenly that space looked a lot different. Mm-hmm. I felt pretty isolated, and there weren't a lot of people that I felt like were moms and owned businesses and had significant passion for both areas of their life. I saw a lot of times one would be sacrificed over the other and vice versa, and it wasn't necessarily where it needed to be. Well, so when I became a mom, and I think Brian was about 4 months old, so my first one was 4 months old, I founded Mommies Hiring Mommies. And it came, and I told the story at the event, so you briefly, but I think you got the gist of it. But basically what happened was I was part of a mom's group, and I loved being part of this mom's group on Facebook. It was just a local mom's group, nothing business related, but I was a new mom. I was just kind of getting my feet wet in this motherhood journey and realizing how challenging it was and rewarding, and how much of an adjustment it was doing that and being a business owner. And I was watching all these other moms take these extended maternity leaves. And I was like, what is a maternity leave? My kid was 2 days old and I was already working. And then by 7 weeks old, I was leaving him and I was working. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't finding a lot of camaraderie in that story. And then I ended up getting kicked out of a mom's group, which really broke my heart. I totally understand it now because they didn't want any business as part of it. But I was up late one night and I was like, there has to be a different way. I am not the only mom that feels this way. I know there has to be other people. There have to be other mompreneurs that want to talk about business and motherhood and not have to have separate life and separate business. My husband and I operate in a way that our business is part of our life. And there's no, this is business and this is personal. It's all business and personal to us. So we work to use our business as an extension of ourselves and our service. And so I wanted to find other women who their businesses were an extension of their life and were in fact supporting their, their motherhood journey too. So 11:45 at night, I couldn't sleep. I was so upset and hurt. I'm getting kicked out and I was pissed off. If I can say that on your podcast. I was upset. She might have to bleep me out. And so I started Mommies Hiring Mommies. And the whole concept of Mommies Hiring Mommies is to have an online space as a compatible component with an in-person opportunity to connect with women who are in the same space. And not only that, but the name Mommies Hiring Mommies is just what our community is. Mm-hmm. It's connecting women to be able to hire from their mom community for things that they need. So if somebody needs an estate plan or a personal injury attorney, they can call us. But if somebody needs a real estate agent, or maybe they need, we have a ton of direct sales women in our community. So doTERRA oils or Monet hair care products or all Lip Sense or all the different, health and wellness companies, Arbonne, all those. So we have all the direct sales companies plus professional services. So pretty much no matter what you need, you can find that within our community. So it's a really robust opportunity to build local networks where you not only get to connect and build passion with these women, but you actually know where your money's going. You are going ahead and paying for somebody to do something for you, whether it's a service, maybe it's bake a cake, maybe it's buy a product. But at the end of the day, you know that that money's going back to their home, and that's incredibly special. And you know it's serving their family. So that's really what we do. So then, honestly, the community, though, is so much more than business. Like I said, it has made me such a better mom. It has taught me so much grace and so much camaraderie and passion. It's really special. So
I get
that's
that.
my journey.
I get that completely. And probably the reason you feel that it's made you a better mom and taught you so much grace is because you've heard so many other stories that are similar and in many ways dissimilar, but with the same passion as your story, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we grow when we are exposed to other people who have similar journeys or even different journeys, but with the same passion as we do. And that's one of the things I learned. I've got to tell you, with this podcast, things do happen when we're ready for them to happen. And
I
I,
could not agree more. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, just had something like that happen recently. And
yeah,
I told my husband, and not everybody's religious, we're Christian. I said, I truly believe that God hands you what you can handle, and everybody has their own spirituality. You can tie that in the way that fits. But
hmm,
there were some things in our life that were kind of on the back burner recently. And suddenly they came to light. And I looked at my husband and said, God put this in front of us at the exact moment that we were prepared to handle it.
yeah,
We could
yeah.
not handle it before. Now we can handle it. So it's
Yeah.
beautiful the way that journey is crafted
It
sometimes.
is, and and it even goes to the extent of we open ourselves up to new ideas when we are ready to receive those new ideas. So when I first started this podcast, I was adamant. Because of my journey, I wanted to stay home and raise my own kids. I wanted to quit my outside job and come inside and have a flexible schedule completely and be control my own destiny, blah, 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 because I had waited so long to have kids that I knew that this was going to be my priority. And I had judgments. I totally copped to it. I had judgments of people who put their kids in daycare and blah, 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 until
Oh,
I
yeah.
was open to the fact that I realized, you know what? I'm not in that person's shoes. I have not gone through their life day by day. And how in the world can I in any way judge that person for their
It
choices?
is so hard.
It really is,
It
because
is
I
so
didn't have
hard.
that experience, right? So I was never put into daycare, so and I didn't and my husband wasn't, so we didn't have that experience. We didn't have those thought processes that those experiences that they had to go through to have a mom or a dad make that decision, or be in a place where they had no choice. I
Hmm.
had never experienced that, and I looked at myself and went, "Woman, you are being so judgmental and so unfair to other people to put any kind of judgment on the choices they've made. If I have not walked their shoes, and even if I did walk their shoes, I still do not have in any way the right to judge anyone else for their choices." And so I really, through the what we started in 2013, so 2014 January, so 3 years of
Hmm.
talking to people, there's no way and now I'm totally different. Like, cool, whatever you had to do to try and
Yes.
figure all this stuff out, go for it. There is no judgment. There is, just embrace it all and realize that we're all trying to get up every day and do the absolute best
Put
we
one foot in front of
can.
the other.
Jeez, I know, it's crazy,
Yeah.
and especially on Facebook. Now, I really want to ask you about that because, of
Yes.
course, as you know, my life is completely around Facebook right now. And as the Power Parents know, my life is completely around Facebook now. I never used to be on Facebook. I was always a Twitter gal. But now that Messenger's opened up with business, I have been able to combine Twitter and Facebook. And it's the communication style of Twitter, but on Facebook. So I'm all totally consumed. So you've talked about Facebook groups, and you've talked about how
Uh-huh.
you were kicked out of one Facebook group, and you
Hmm.
started your own Facebook group. And just so a couple of things, if we can clarify, we call ourselves Power Parents because if we've been able to get a kid through potty training, business
Oh
is
my
nothing, right? Business
I
is
have to I
nothing.
have to totally make an admission here though.
Uh-oh.
It's just total admission because I didn't have to do that. So the potty training thing, I don't know what happened in my life to get this lucky, but our older son, who's now 3, when he was 2 years old, right after his second birthday, he took off his diaper one Sunday and just used the potty. And
Just
that
was
was our
like, I'm
kind of
done.
potty training journey, literally. And it was a little more encouragement to get him to poop on the potty, but it really
Yeah.
wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at our second son just turned 2, and we're like, Oh my God, is it going
Okay.
to be the same thing? Oh my gosh. So I just have to totally admit. So for all you parents out there struggling, we've had many other struggles. The potty training one was not ours.
Okay,
So
there
just know
you go. It doesn't.
everybody's got their own.
Yeah, it's potty training. I use that example because all of us have to do it. So with your second one,
Oh,
you may have to be an issue, but I'm sure you had a few
oh,
accidents here and there, right? I mean, he didn't know how to hold it completely, so I don't know.
we had
Anyway,
one.
yeah. So you're very lucky, but I'm sure there are other sleep issues. I mean, I don't care what you want to
Well,
say. We've all had
you can put
issues.
the sleep issues my way. We
Yeah,
hired a sleep consultant at one point.
yeah. So kids,
No, Jen.
kids are nothing. Kids are what we
Yeah,
if we can handle that, business is totally easy,
yeah,
right?
I agree. I
Um,
agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
So that's our power parents, and that's why we call ourselves that. But so in getting back to your Facebook groups, you have Facebook groups that are specific to locations. So it's not just that you join this main Facebook group and somebody you might need services from. Let's say you need someone to come help you clean your house. That's okay. You can find those people in your local community, and you are really purchasing services that will stay in your community, right?
Correct, 100%.
Yeah.
So
So tell me how
we
you did
actually didn't
that.
even we didn't even have a national tribe for a long time. So we started it with the Mommies Hiring Mommies West Sacramento. That's where I'm from. It's West Sacramento, California. It was the first group. I think we're at like 2,500 members right now in just that group alone. So we have some people from outside the area. Kind of the rules are if you can service this area, you can join it, or if you actively participate, you can join it. But at the end of the day, the real benefit is when you're going to the in-person events and online stuff in your local community. So after I went to Dana Malstaff's Boss Mom Retreat back in late January, early February down in San Diego,
Mhm.
and people down there kept asking me, which group do I join? And it was the first time I had been really approached with a question. I hadn't really thought about the fact, what if somebody doesn't yet have a group in their area, but they don't want to be the one to start it, to launch that Mommies Hiring Mommies community. So where do they go until they do? So I started having people just join the Mommies Hiring Mommies Westac because that was the most established one, so they could get really a sense of it. And then, if it was something that interested them or if they felt value in it, then they can start their own. Right now, I think we have about 10 communities on hold waiting to be launched. And I've just been having them on hold until we're ready to roll out the next support system. But we recently launched the national group. So the national group, I no longer lead any of the local communities. So we have community leaders, tribe leaders that lead all of the local communities who are all mom business owners. And then I now run the national tribe, which the national tribe really is more for business development, connection, and then filtering people into local communities. So if you don't have a local community yet, you join the national tribe, you get a sense of it, you build connections there, and then when you're ready to actually launch a community of your own, I walk you through the process on how to do that and how to get a Mommies Hiring Mommies in your area. So we had to start a national tribe because there was so much interest. We were not knowing where to filter everybody.
Mm.
But it is really, the national tribe is the only one that's not for local referrals, though people still get referrals like business coaches and online services and things like that. But truly, the local ones are where you get that really community based feel. When schools are having events in your area, when you have community fairs and craft fairs and vendor fairs and fundraisers and, all these different kind of hyper local things, that's where you really get that connection. It's pretty special.
Yeah, got it. And so the one that I belong to, I believe, since I'm a little bit removed from you, but I could easily service Westsac, is the national one, right?
Uh-huh.
That's where Andrea's been posting information, yeah, I think it was Andrea.
That's actually the retreat group.
Oh,
So she's
that's
in the
right.
retreat.
That's
Uh-huh.
right. Okay, so
So
you've got a couple
yeah,
of
that's
different.
the retreat.
Okay, so
Mhm.
do you have a specific process for referrals?
So not really. Honestly, the referrals are kind of the nature of the relationships that get built within the community. So if somebody wants a referral, say for somebody to bake a cake for their child's birthday, they'll post in the group and say, guys, my son's birthday's coming up. He's turning 2. I have an inspiration picture of kind of what I want. Any local moms, can you help me out? And then everybody chimes in and tags their local resources or different moms that do that particular type of service, whether it's cake baking or insurance or whatever. And they all chime in together, and then people are able to kind of filter through and see who they want to work with. And it's really kind of special. So we don't limit people asking for referrals because we believe it's really the crux of what we do.
Right.
But we keep it also very informal because we want people to feel comfortable to just post anytime.
But you
Somebody
probably, though,
recently,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go
No, go
ahead.
ahead.
So I was just going to say, you probably have to limit people trying to sell in the group, though.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
we didn't limit that for a long time. We had it well, I would say the only limit we had was spam Sunday. So Sundays were the day that you can post all about your business in your own post on the page or in the group. But the problem we had is that as the groups got so large, there were so many posts on Sundays that people were turning off notifications. And so that really diminished the value of the group because our group is so much more than selling. I can tell you this, nobody comes to our community and advertises and gets a ton of business. People that get a ton of business, truly, people that get a ton of business are the people that actually take networking seriously. And what that means is they come to in-person events and build relationships consistently with other people at the in-person events. And then they also continue in between events to foster those relationships in the group by commenting, posting, sharing resources, supporting other people in their struggles and celebrations. And those are the people that get business. I can tell you right now, I do not have to advertise my law practice.
Right.
I don't have to share it. I don't have to advertise it. People know what I do. People know who I am. And so when somebody asks for a referral for an attorney, I get tagged.
Right.
And that's all I need to do. And that's what it's about. When you truly foster relationships, that's when those referrals come in. So we are a referral-based local mompreneur community, but we focus heavily on relationships. If you're going to come in to an event, sit by yourself, not talk to anybody, not engage, and then later say, okay, give me business, people are going to not only not have any idea who you are, they're not going to want to give you business, and they're not going to engage with you. And so it is really interesting to see the people that have been incredibly successful. And I mean, there have been some people that have launched businesses out of our community, like truly launched businesses because they've been so intentional and so invested.
Yeah. And that's, that's because, like I mentioned, being so involved in Facebook, that is a very, not just a strategic way to conduct your business and network, but it just makes flippin' sense. So, and it's so counter to the quote online culture right now, especially the online marketing culture where, all these gurus are telling you just go and take your online course, your expertise, and turn it into a course and put it up online and then send out emails and all. That's not how business is done. That's not how true, authentic, relationship-based long-term business is done. Really, it's done through relationships. And the same with me. I have not had to advertise. I have not had to do any of that because I'm providing value to people in groups, on my own page, on my own groups. And people know who I am. So when they want what I have to offer, they come to me. Or they refer someone else to come to me. My husband does the same thing. He is a tax practice, and they don't even accept new clients unless they're referred.
Isn't that beautiful?
Just do not accept someone walking in off the street unless they're referred by a current client.
That is the best type of business,
it
hands
is.
down.
And at
Hands
first
down
I
the
was
best type
like,
of business.
you're crazy, but I get it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's so much more dedicated clientele. It really is. And they provide so many services. I used to, a long time ago, I used to say, why aren't you doing just like every other tax person and charging per hour when people come in to take your time or on the phone or, similar to what how attorneys typically charge, hourly rate. And he does not do that. That is part of their fees that they charge their clients. If they perform your tax return, if they do your tax return, you can ask them questions all year long for free. And
that's so funny. That's the exact same way I practice law.
Yes.
When I do an estate plan, once I do your estate plan, you call me for free with questions.
Yes.
I don't charge you by the hour to do that. It always drives me crazy because then people mess up either their accounting or their books or their estate plan because they're so afraid. And it's such a terrible service that people do.
It is.
Making people afraid to continue with you.
Yes, and that's exactly. So he gets phone calls all the time. Well, what should I do with my estate? And he's like, I really would love to help you with that, but I can't because I'm
Uh-huh.
not an estate attorney. So I need you to go to your attorney who set it up for you, right?
Right.
Because they
Yep.
know they can call him with any question. And of course, he
Yeah,
has to put the limits on as to what he can actually answer. But yeah,
absolutely.
it just creates devoted clientele, and you're devoted to each other because you have a relationship. They bring him, especially because they only see him usually during tag season. They bring him cakes that they bake and
Mm-hmm.
presents that they buy and cookies, and he knows, and they have generations because his father was the one that started this. So they have the parents, the children, the grandchildren, the great grandchildren, all of the whole family comes to them to get their taxes done because it's that kind of relationship, and they've followed each other through life. So that's the way to do it. And Power Parents, the reason I went through that story is because you can do that on Facebook. You can meld these two groups, this online group and this in-person
Yes.
group. You can use both to build relationships, and I think that's the beauty of this whole medium. And so that's why I wanted to take us through that Facebook journey. Because, so do you think, or give me your ideas, what is
Mm-hmm.
the most important aspect of Facebook that has allowed you to build such deep relationships? What about Facebook has allowed you to do that, do you think?
You know, I don't know if it's okay. So Facebook versus Instagram versus Twitter. I could not do what I do on Twitter.
Right.
It's too many limited characters. It wouldn't allow me to tell the story. Instagram is so heavily picture focused that people would scroll through the pictures of what I'm sharing without reading the message. So if I had to say, I'm a very emotionally based person, and that sharing emotions and stories are honestly what have allowed people to connect with me and then to connect with the community. Because most people, when they join something new, they don't really feel safe or feel connection yet. And it takes a lot for people to feel like they're part of something. And I'm very honest with my struggles, with my journey, with my life, with my business. And I share in hopes that it'll inspire and teach other people. And I don't think I could have done it on any other platform besides Facebook because Facebook has such a large audience. So when I created the group that night, when I woke up in the morning, there were already 250 requests to join. So it's just, I mean, it spoke volumes about what I was doing, and I didn't even know yet, you
Right.
know. And so the large built-in audience is already on Facebook, and then it's just about finding like-minded people to join the community, and then really having the ability to be raw and open up the conversation. And I really don't think I could have had those types of posts on any other platform besides Facebook. So I would
Right.
say that's probably the benefit. And the Facebook groups, they're private, they're not secret, they're private until you join. And so I think having the ability to facilitate these conversations not on my personal page because it wasn't all about me. It was
Mm-hmm.
about sharing my journey in case it helped somebody else. So,
Right.
Mommy's Hiring Mommies has never been about me individually. It's never been like a funnel for my business. That's not what I treated it as. It's not what
Right.
I started it as, all those
Right.
things. So,
Right.
um, I think that's what it is. I think Facebook's been successful for me because it is more of a storytelling platform, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it helps that way.
Yeah, and it really allows you to share stories and share updates of your life. I mean, that's really the
Mm-hmm.
structure of it. That's how it's structured. So I can see that. Now, do you have all of, now we have a lot of new things coming out on Facebook, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
new
New
algorithms.
features everywhere.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So have you linked all of those groups to the national Mommies Hiring Mommies page?
We have started doing it. We have not finished.
Yeah.
So
It's a beast.
it's a
It's,
beast. It's a journey. It's a journey. And I'm still practicing full time. So that's always
yes, I
the
know.
journey as well, is that I'm
Trying
practicing full time and doing that at the same
trying
time.
to find the time, and I know you have some staff, so that's wonderful as well. But yeah,
I
so
actually never had staff. That's actually something most people assume I have a staff. I've never had a staff until the end of June. I hired my first assistant for myself at the law office and Mommies Hiring Mommies. So she is my assistant for both things. I've never had an assistant before that.
Yeah.
So it was myself
Yeah,
by
exactly.
myself, driving myself crazy and my husband
Yes,
crazy.
yes, and and we've already talked about that several times on this show. We've had several guests say, that's the number one thing. You have to get help. You can't do it all, because something
Absolutely.
something will suffer. It just will. We only have so much time in the day.
Absolutely.
We only have so much
Hmm.
energy, and the older I get, the less energy I feel like I have, and so I have to keep
Oh my
exercising and
goodness.
eat well. And
Amen. Amen.
I know I used to be able to stay up till 2 in the morning working. Not
Oh,
anymore.
maybe if I
Definitely
didn't
not.
have a kid waking me up in the morning,
Well,
that
even
would
with
be
that,
possible. With
I
two
did
kids, no.
that when I had little kids. I did that when I had little kids. I had that kind of
Oh
energy.
man,
But now my kids are teenagers and they don't wake me up. So I could easily stay up that
shit.
late, but I just can't. Oh, well, I just don't. And so that I can get myself up and have a good routine. But life changes, each cycle comes and goes. And so we just have to adapt to it. So, okay. That's the next question then. So you have a law practice and
Mhm.
you have to take care of your clients and have flexibility to be able to take care of your kids and not have to work all night long on Mommy's Hiring Mommies or client work.
Mhm.
How do you make those choices? What you
Uh-huh.
you used to advise people, right, on time management and systems and things. So how do you make those choices so that you can get everything done and still have time for you and kids and hubby and all that good stuff?
So I will say that I'm not a miracle worker and I know no magic, though I wish sometimes that I did. So I want other mompreneurs and other entrepreneurs listening to this to know that this is a journey and you will not be perfect at this ever. And you will not be perfect out the gate. But what I will say is that the most important thing, and we are literally on our second to last week of our time maximizing mastermind. And the whole point of the mastermind has been truly to help you get in alignment with what's important to you. So that at the end of the day, when you look back at how your time was spent, it was truly spent on the things that impact your happiness, that impact your financial bottom line to make sure you're making ends meet, and impact what you want out of life, not just business. So, the best thing that I can say about what I've done that's worked well is really building in intentional time for business. And one of my favorite books, Executive Toughness, if you've never read it,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably one of the best time management books you'll ever read in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And they really walk through it in the book about, they call it product and process goals, and something my husband and I are obsessed with. But your product goals are the major things that you want out of life. And then the process goals are the things that literally have to be done to achieve the product goal. And the best thing I do is I plan my whole week every week around my product and process goals so that when I sit down and I look at what I'm doing, I can see color coded by product goal whether or not my processes are lining up to match my product goals, whether or not I'm going to end up at the end of the week where I need to be. So I know that sounds a little bit convoluted for people. So if you want more on that, I highly recommend Executive Toughness, the book. But really, what I've done is first grant myself a ton of grace because I know I'm not perfect. I'm not a miracle worker and I don't know magic. And then, second, I make sure and carve out time for myself. So when I start feeling tired, or if I know I'm going into a push phase where I'm going to be exerted pretty heavily, I'm going to have some rest time built in after that. And then my husband and I take trips away without the kids, just overnight. We didn't always have family help. And so we would pay for somebody to watch our kids overnight. And we had to make that happen. We take solo trips occasionally by ourselves, and we make sure that when outside of work, our time is heavily focused on our children and that our children get 100% of us. So I would say it's all a balance. But if you really take the time to carve out and be intentional about what you actually want out of life, what your core values are, and what you hope that everything is leading towards, then, that'll be great. And you'll achieve that as long as you stay focused.
Perfect. So when you say product and process, just so I can put that into entrepreneurial perspective. So the product would be whatever it is your, let's say, say 3 things you are working toward in your business that will bring you revenue, that will take you to the next level, whatever those things are. Okay, and so then the process are the details of how you're going to get that done, the systems, the software, the day-to-day little parts that are going to lead you step by step to get that product accomplished. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. So if I were to give you an example, so we never have more than 3 product goals at a time. So we run by the rule of 3. It's pretty popular in the self-development world, but for us, we really feel like we cannot do more than 3 things. So for example, one of my personal product goals, one of my major goals for the year is to maximize my time and efficiency so I can work less. So I work a lot right now. I work 5 days a week and full days, and then I manage our household, and I do extra things outside of the office. But really, I want to get down to where my law practice occupies 3 days a week by November 1st. So my product goal, and I always tie it to an emotional component, because I believe that if your goals are not tied to an emotional component, you're going to be less motivated because there's nothing really hitting your heart. So my product goal is to maximize my time and efficiency so I can work less, have more time for me, and be more energized and fulfilled to serve my family and my husband. And so my process goals, there's 3 of them per product goal. My first one is committing to systems and delegation. And so that means systems like we use Wunderlist, and we have passion planners, and we have daily team meetings. And our team meetings are to ensure that everybody stays on task and all the major tasks are getting accomplished. My second process goal is 30 minutes maximum per day of Facebook. For those that are in a Facebook world, that may seem crazy. The first 2 things, my first 2 process goals, have already been accomplished. Wow. And I literally spend less than 30 minutes a day on Facebook, and it's amazing.
Yes.
And the third thing is to time block and set timers for my vital tasks, which are my tasks that result in actual financial revenue. So any revenue-based task is going to be time blocked, and a timer is going to be set against it, and I'm not allowed to do anything else other than that revenue-based task until that timer goes off.
Yes.
So that is very freeing. So I use that system now. So I would say that that's ongoing, but I'm taking the entire month of September off.
Woohoo!
And so I am definitely already on track. Everything's already set up, and I'm telling you, very intentional action. If you're very intentional about what you want out of life and business, and if you are very clear on what it takes to get you to that point, and then every week you plan out your week based on those things, you will achieve them. It's just a choice, and it's pain in the butt, but it's choice. So there are days where I do not want to plan out my week. I just want to get in. I'm overwhelmed. There's a ton of stuff to do, and I always end up in failure if I do that. Always start with planning. So I can tell you right now, that's not going to be a problem. November 1st, I'll be working 3 days a week max. And then the other 2 days a week will be personal time or working on Mommies Hiring Mommies or family time, whatever I want it to be. And that has not been crafted out yet, but that's pretty special. So that's an example of a product and process goal set and what that looks like.
Wow. Yes, please, Power Parents, I hope you heard that. And I hope you really, your ears perked up and you took notes. If you're driving, obviously don't take notes. But when you get to wherever you need to go, then go back and listen to that, because I agree 100%. We cannot just let life happen to us. We really do need to create the life that we want. And the only way we can do that is by a process that Ashley just outlined, some kind of process like that. If that one makes sense to you, and I agree, if you don't have it tied to something emotional, you're not going to do it, because something's going to come into your life that's going to take you off course. And if your heart isn't set on that goal, you're going to totally get distracted and not go back to it.
Mary, can I share all the time? So going through this mastermind, I'm coaching 24 women right now. And it's incredible how hard it is to draft a goal and tie it to an emotion. Mm-hmm. So I want to encourage anybody listening to know that when you're drafting goals, it may take a couple of rewrites. And if you're stuck and you're not really understanding, why do I want to make $100,000 a year? Or why do I want to have, 1,500 new followers per month in my Facebook community or page? If if you're having these goals of, I want these things, but you don't really know why, just start asking yourself why. And you're going to say, okay, I want to feel better in my own skin. Okay, why?
Keep
Well,
asking why.
after I had a baby, my body kind of changed. Okay, but why?
Hmm.
Well, I have a little extra weight and I don't really fit in my clothes. Okay, a lot of people change sizes. So again, why? Why does that
Hmm.
affect you? And eventually, if you ask yourself why enough, you're going to get to the emotion that's driving that. But I'm telling you, if you don't get to that emotion, you're not going to succeed in that goal. It's
Right.
a big, big deal. It's just like you said, something will take you off course and it'll totally change the dynamic of what you're doing.
And you won't go back to it, or it won't be the same, and you won't reach whatever goal you think you had. Um,
100%.
yeah, it really is. Please, power parents, listen to that and go back to each of the goals that you think you have, or whatever you're trying to follow of someone online that I want to be like that. Okay, I want the
Mm-hmm.
laptop lifestyle, and I want to go down and work on a beach anytime I want. You gotta. There are so many of those, and there's so many people that are following that. And kudos to you if you really have a reason for it and you can get it down to that heart level. But most of us can't. Most of us just see that, and we see that Facebook life that isn't really a
Mm-hmm.
real life. And we're following possibly something that is really unattainable for us, and it isn't grounded in what we're wanting to do right now. So, oh my goodness, I cannot even give enough kudos to that. I cannot give enough stars to it. I cannot give enough likes and hearts and whatever we want to give in social media to that very statement, because it is number one. It really is. If you don't have that, and we've all heard, what's your why? What's your why? What's your why? Well, most of them are surface. You got to get way down deep because this entrepreneurial
Absolutely.
life is not for the faint at heart. If your heart is not committed, you will not succeed. So, wow. All
No,
right.
amen. I
Thank
actually
you.
just had somebody telling me this morning about wanting to quit because, they aren't where they want to be yet. And I
Oh,
said, well, you've got to
gosh.
decide how much you want this
Yeah. And
because
what do
it's
you
a
mean
journey.
yet? Yeah. What
Hmm.
I mean yet. It's if you're not enjoying the journey, the destination won't matter. So,
Hmm.
readjust those goals. Yet
Yes,
can be tomorrow. It can be next month. It can be 3 years from now. Really. But keep going. I will never ever give up. Absolutely ever. On the goals that
hmm.
I have. So, wow. All right. So that was a piece of brilliance. Thank you so much for that.
You're
And
welcome.
is there any last piece of advice you would give someone that's, just kind of rocking back and forth on the fence? I think that motivation you just shared is pretty good motivation for them to keep going, but they could still be just kind of rocking back and forth going, gosh, I just don't know whether I should do this or not, or maybe I don't have enough of a deeper reason for doing this. I just don't know. Maybe I should quit. Maybe I should jump in. What piece of advice would you give that person who's still considering whether it's starting or wanting to go to the next level?
Sure. I will say that there are very few businesses that you have to start right away. There's very few things that you don't have time to reflect and really have the conversation with yourself or those loved ones in your life to make sure that it's a good fit for you. So I would say before you decide to take a leap, don't jump into anything. No direct sales company is going to be gone tomorrow that you're hoping to join today. Your opportunities are not suddenly going to disappear and somebody's suddenly going to take your market share overnight. That's very, very rare. So, what I would say is for those of you that are actually considering jumping into the entrepreneurial journey, I would say the first thing is to have a plan. Actually, know why you're doing what you're doing. Get through those why questions and figure out why you're even doing that. Are you just mad that you didn't like working for some boss and so you're angry now and you're going to start your own business so that you never have to work for somebody again? I mean, because as glorified as that sounds, being on your own and being an entrepreneur sometimes is a lot harder than working for that mean boss. Trust me, I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
So truly have a plan, know why you're doing it, and know what it is exactly that makes you special and what you're doing special. Because if you can't distinguish what you're doing versus what somebody else is doing, nobody else is going to be able to. And that is really, really important. That is your uh, basically your distinguisher. That is why people are going to hire you versus that other person that does something similar. So make sure you know why you're doing what you're doing, what you're doing, and what makes you special. And then beyond that, I would say probably the biggest advice I can give, and I gave this another podcast interview I was on, this conversation came up. And so I want to share it here too, Mary, because I think it's really important. And you need to know when to push forward. You need to know when to pull back, and you need to know when to pull the plug altogether. So you actually, if you're going to jump into an entrepreneurial journey, you need to have certain thresholds in place so that you know you're never violating, one, your relationship with your family, two, your financial security. I mean, we all take financial risks in being an entrepreneur, but by no means should you ever put your family in harm's way over your selfish need to be an entrepreneur. I truly believe that if your family comes first, and sacrificing their well-being for your business is not good. Now, that said, we all make sacrifices in business, but there are some things that you can say, yeah, that's still fine, and other things that, okay, that's crossing the line. My kids don't have food on the table, or I'm never home and my kids have no idea who I am, or my family has no idea who I am. My marriage is on the verge of divorce because all I'm doing is working. These are major markers. Like, know when those happen and know what you need to do if you see that. And then, so there's a balance of pushing forward. There's some hardships you're going to push through for sure. And there's some that are going to be, maybe this is a stopping point where I take a breather and kind of reevaluate, renegotiate what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. And then there are times where you're going to hit a certain roadblock and realize this isn't going where I had hoped it would go, or the opportunity is no longer there, or maybe I am making too great of a sacrifice for what I'm trying to accomplish because what I'm losing is more important than what I'm gaining. And those are the opportunities where you pull the plug. So I would just say, make sure if you're jumping in to have those certain thresholds in place that you know, so you're never sacrificing your values or what's important to you for something that doesn't mean as much as the other.
Okay, there you go, Power Parents. You heard it. Ashley, thank you so much for sharing this time with me, because I knew when I attended your event and how amazing it was, and all of the really amazing information and actionable advice that you had gathered amongst the speakers and the people attending, and just the networking and the camaraderie that I felt there. I was so excited to invite you onto the show and share some of this information with the Power Parents in the audience. So thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to see where Mommies Hiring Mommies goes, and I can't wait to see how November comes, and your time is now shifted quite a bit. So thank you.
Yes, you're so welcome. And thank you for having me on. And I am so glad that you ended up messaging us in those final days right before the retreat. It was such a pleasure having you there. I know everybody really enjoyed you. So I can't wait to hear more and hear more of our podcast. And I know you have a couple of people lined up from the retreat that you're thinking about having on. So I can't wait to hear those as well.
To get powered up for your day, just go to parententrepreneur.power.com and listen to any one of the over 100 episodes we've had so far with amazing entrepreneurs just like you. It might just help you feel like a grown-up again.